Comment down below what country and city you're from before we begin, because I need you to bear witness to what happened right in my own backyard, right in the so-called safe space I carved out for my children. Grab your tea, get comfortable, because this one's a long ride, and honestly, it gets real ugly. This is the story of how my dream home, my peace, became a battleground. I wish I could tell you the story started the day a cop showed up in my backyard, but it didn't. Nah, it started decades back, before the pool, before the house, before I could even imagine what my own slice of peace might look like. This story's got roots, you know what I mean? It started with my grandmother, a woman who scrubbed strangers' floors with hands rough as bark and pride as tall as the sky, just so my mother could be the first in our family to go to college. My mother became a teacher, working herself raw for her students by day, for me by night, pouring into me the only inheritance she could. This belief that education was armor and ambition a shield. I carried that torch through law school, through those long, sleep-starved nights in rooms where I was the only woman, the only person of color, the only one smiling when I wanted to scream. Every microaggression, every not ready for promotion, every coded comment, I bottled all of it. Fuel. Because I wasn't just building a career, I was building an escape, a way out, and a launching pad for my own children. I wanted something different for them. My son, quiet, whip-smart, always thinking. My daughter, pure sunlight and fire, so creative her laughter could light up the whole block. I was determined my kids would never see their joy treated like a threat or their skin as a liability. So we found this house tucked at the end of a cul-de-sac, the kind of place where you hear sprinklers more than sirens, where lawns look like carpets, and the schools actually care. When we closed on it, I cried real ugly, heaving sobs of relief. But it was the backyard that made me feel like I'd finally made it, a huge old oak, thick green grass, and that pool turquoise, sparkling, the kind of thing I'd dreamed of for years. I pictured summer's cookouts, belly flops, lazy afternoons. I pictured my kids safe. We were the only black family on the street, but at first everything seemed fine. The neighbors were polite, nothing more, nothing less. Then 2 months in, the new neighbors moved in next door. You know the type, her haircut sharp enough to slice bread, him built like a refrigerator. And as I soon learned, a police officer. Their son, about 13, doughy face, always smirking, watching my kids play in the pool like we were the evening show at the zoo. At first it was subtle. The boy staring through the fence. The mom making comments when I watered my plants. Must be nice to have that much energy, looking right at my kids. You could almost choke on the subtext. Then came the Saturday cookout, my family, some music, nothing loud, just R&B and laughter. Suddenly the boys at the fence. Can you turn that jungle music down? My brother, who's got a shorter fuse than me, stood up, but I calmed him down. I walked over, told the boy it wasn't okay, but his mom showed up, her arm around him. No apology, just, my son is sensitive to noise. Not an ounce of responsibility, just that same old script. We value tranquility here. Sure, tranquility that didn't include us. Things got worse fast. Their son started throwing his basketball over our fence accidentally multiple times a day, always when my daughter was sunbathing or my son was floating in the pool. It wasn't a game. It was harassment, and the laughter that followed was sharp, cruel. The last straw. The ball knocked over a pitcher of lemonade, shattered glass everywhere. I marched over and told his mom this needed to stop. She rolled her eyes. Boys will be boys. You should be more careful with your things. And then, you know, my husband works very hard to keep this neighborhood safe. It'd be a shame if he had to get involved. A threat plain as day. But what really twisted the knife was how she started flipping the script. Loud calls in her backyard, making sure I could hear the new neighbors are so aggressive. I'm almost afraid to let my son outside. She was laying the groundwork, turning us into the villains. And her son, man, he was getting bolder, like he believed he was untouchable. One perfect Friday, my daughter had just gotten the lead in her school play. My son had won the science fair. I decided to give them a day off, just fun in the pool, burgers, ice cream, the works. For a while, it felt like a real victory. But then he showed up at our gate. Not the fence this time. He walked in, shoes off, ready to jump in our pool without a word. I stopped him, told him you can't just barge into someone's yard. His mother stormed in after him, accusing me of being selfish, of hoarding the pool. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling my husband. 10 minutes later, a squad car screeches up. Out stomps her husband, not in uniform, but badge visible, gun at his hip, straight into my yard, ignoring me, going straight for my kids. His son, of course, is right there pointing. They won't let me swim, Dad. The officer, this man I've never met, starts yelling, booming aggressive. You two out of the pool now. My kids, terrified, huddle together. My son, always brave, says, but this is our pool. The cop's face twists in fury. I don't care whose pool it is. You're causing a public disturbance. Meanwhile, his son. Yeah. The victim slips right into the water, smiling like he just conquered Rome. I lost it. Get away from my children, I screamed. Throwing myself between the cop and my kids, he turns on me, spit flying. Ma'am, you need to control yourself. I'm resolving a dispute. I pointed to the gate, shaking, but steady. Get out, now. He stared at me, saw I wasn't backing down, then finally called his family to leave, but not before warning me. You're lucky I'm generous today. You cause any more trouble, it'll be a different story. The silence they left behind was suffocating. My kids shaking, traumatized. The pool, once our dream, now a crime scene. That night, nobody touched the chocolate cake. The pool toys looked like ghosts. Next day, I did what I had to do. I'm a lawyer. I documented everything, saved the Ring doorbell footage, wrote it all up, called internal affairs. The response, cold, dismissive. Nobody called back. I went down to the station, filed a complaint. The sergeant looked me dead in the eye and called it a neighborhood disagreement. 2 days later, a different cop handed me a warning for disturbing the peace. The officer next door had filed a counter-complaint naming his son as a witness. Suddenly, I was the problem. But you know what? I wasn't about to let them win. I started digging. Found an old security camera, dusted it off, pulled the footage. There it was, the boy breaking in, the cop yelling, my kids cowering. I started talking to neighbors. Most were scared, but one elderly widow crossed the street and whispered, I saw what happened. That man's a bully. He's done this before. She pointed me to the previous homeowners they'd sold in a hurry and not by choice. Tracked them down, heard their story. Turns out the officer had set up their son, threatened to have charges stick unless they sold the house and signed a non-disclosure. Extortion, plain and simple. With that plus the video, I found a civil rights lawyer who took one look at the evidence and said, they're toast. But she warned me the city would fight dirty. We planned to sue, but first I told my story. Put it out online, risking everything. The response was explosive hashtags. News trucks, national outrage. The cop went on leave. The family retreated. But the war just shifted. Fake accounts smeared my name. My kids were targeted online. Our phone numbers leaked. Threats poured in. The HOA started drowning us in fines, trash can placement, lawn noise. Then the widow revealed the HOA president was indebted to the cop's family financially and personally. The whole system, I realized, was rigged. My lawyer pressed the previous owner. Turns out the officer had blackmailed him into selling, using his badge and a team of high-priced attorneys to bury everything under legal threats. We had proof enough for criminal charges if we could get it out. Then came the digital attacks, fake messages, AI-edited audio of my daughter, all traced back to the officer's wife. She was obsessed, jealous of our life, our home, our happiness. We confronted her, and she broke, admitted everything, all the hate, all the envy. We had everything: video witness, digital proof, legal documents. We threatened the city settle, or we go public with all of it. That's when they made their move, dug up an old dismissed complaint against me, threatened to destroy my career unless I dropped the case. You get your peace, we get silence, he retires, it all goes away. It was the most evil checkmate I'd ever faced. And that's where I'm stuck, y'all. This isn't a fairy tale. My children are healing, but they're not the same. The pool sits covered, our sanctuary tainted, the system still standing, just a little cracked. So now it's your turn. What would you do? Would you take the deal and keep your family safe, or fight on and risk everything for justice? Comment below, tell me where you're from, and tell me what you think. Because this isn't just my story. It's a story about every family who's ever had their peace stolen by power. And I need to know, what does justice look like in your neighborhood?